此单元是2023年职场必备沟通技巧的 Part 3。那这个单元呢，会分享主管要如何留住人才，还有必要的沟通技巧。Hello， 欢迎来到 Executive Plus 主管与沟通力的 Podcast。I'm Sherry, an educator, certified coach, and style enthusiast. 我相信专业有效的沟通是语言跟逻辑的完美结合。
And I'm Nick, a startup consultant, corporate trainer, and late-night gaming junkie. I believe great communication requires the right mindset and solid frameworks.
我们希望带给大家职场英语的技能、跨文化沟通技巧与其他能帮助您成为出色领导者的工具。
Join us each week as we share our experience, research, and methodologies to take your communication and language skills from good to great. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Executive Plus podcast. Thank you for joining us on part 3 of our discussion of how to handle 2023. One of the key themes that we tackled was the idea of talent retention. If you're an employer or a manager, how do you keep the top talent in your company in this time of turmoil?
在今天的单元呢，我们想分享给所有的主管，你要怎么样留住人才，也就是我们上次所提到的 talent retention。那有什么样子的沟通技巧能够让我们了解这些人才，这些 high performers 他们在想什么？ What are they thinking right now, and how do they feel about the job?
Some of the questions or sentiment in this may seem very familiar to anyone who's been listening to our interview questions.
So 这个单元呢，它其实 inspiration 来自 Adam Grant. 那 Adam Grant 他是一个非常著名的一个作家 So he wrote a lot about behaviors and also a lot about for like business environments. 那他在一个 interview 他就有讲过啊，为什么我们在公司里面要有这种叫做 exit interview？ 那如果大家对 exit interview 不是非常的familiar， 它就是通常你离职的那一天，或者是在最后那一刻，然后 HR 就会找你过去，然后跟你做一个 exit interview. But the point is， 通常我们在 exit interview， 我们不会去讲什么实话啦。We don't always share what we think about.Because I'm leaving, like who cares? And I've been in an exit interview before and I have no idea what I said because it was more like, I'm out of here. So for Adam Grant, he's like, 为什么要有这样子的 exit interview? There should be an interview called stay interview.
It's an interesting phenomenon where we interview people when they're coming in and we interview them when they're going out. So we want to know them before they start and we want to know them after they're leaving, but we don't continually have these deeper discussions. Now you could argue that's what a performance review is, but that's usually less a discussion and it's more just a looking over what's happened in the last year.
It's an evaluation, right? The focus is very different. I feel like performance reviews on how I'm doing, so I have to present the best. I'm not going to say anything truthful about how I feel.
So in this case, with a stay interview, what we're looking at is how do you have a conversation with these talent that you really want to retain, but also you want to foster, get them to think about what's going on in the future.
So we collected some really great questions that everyone could just keep it with you. And yeah, I mean, I don't really think that you have to have this very extensive stay interview. It could just be during any lunch break or coffee break that you had the time with your staff on one-on-one.
So the first question is really focusing on the upside. What are the things that people enjoy about their job? You could ask something as simple as, what do you look forward to the most when you come to work every day?
Now, on the flip side, you can also ask, what do you dread about work every day?
So with these kind of questions, you can bounce back and forth between what is the positive sides of working and what is the negative sides of working. It's similar to a pros and cons list, but if you just kind of look at someone and be like, what are all the best things about working here? What are all the worst things about working here? You may get a list of either happy things or grievances, but it doesn't mean someone has spent a lot of time thinking about that. So really honing in on the things that are top of their mind.
And I like the word look forward versus dread because it really conveys a feeling, right? It's not just pros and cons. Pros and cons seems really cold, but look forward, 你期待什么? You know, what do you dread about? These are the words that really pulls that feeling out from someone and make them think about their own experience.
And also, these are more long-term actionable things. So if I said, like, what is something good about the job? If they're just like, oh, we get free coffee every day, that's like a benefit. But if you're like, what is something you look forward to? You're actually looking more at what is something they continually get excited about. Maybe that only comes once a year or once a quarter where a certain type of project or a certain type of activity, that's something that they can anticipate and join. In the case of dread, it's also like more an anxiety rather than an annoyance. Like, I really don't like our bathroom stalls, right? Maybe you can fix that, but is that really something that gives them anxiety and would make them consider finding alternatives? Whereas with dread, you're looking at something that has like a very strong pull on them that would be part of their decision-making to stay or leave.
And of course, the next question, it could also be, or you can actually replace the previous question with, what is the best part of your job?
And reverse to that, what part of your job would you cut out straight away, if possible? As opposed to what's the best part of your job, you could also ask a question of like, what would you like to do more of in your job? Or what would make you happier if you could do more of it?
I like that question a lot. What do you want to do more? What do you want to do less? What do you want to cut out, right? 这些我们就越来越可以进入很多比较具体的一些实际的一些例子。
One question similar to that cut out that I like to ask clients or coachees is if you were to wake up tomorrow and one thing was just complete and off of your plate, what would it be? And I like this question because it makes people think about like, what is the burning issue? What is the thing that is giving them anxiety or keeping them up at night? And if it's finished, they feel like, okay, I can go back and work on the things I want to. And so this is very similar to just thinking about like, what is on someone's priority list of like, I just got to get this done or I got to get this over with.
Now, I love the next question, which is, which of your talents are you not using in your current role? Now, I love this because a lot of people, they may find the job or the company, the team good, but they feel like they're not being appreciated enough or they're not using certain talent, right? A lot of times that's why they would leave the company. They would try to get another job that's more challenging. And I think this is a great question because you're actually asking that very, very burning question.
And this is a question that came up recently even for us, where we talked to Carol, our very talented graphic designer, about are there things that she feels she doesn't get to do enough of or that she's not focused on. And what she brings up is her ability to do animation. Yeah. And in the past, she's did like Presentality's introduction video, that animation, our online conference call class animation. She's actually has a very good talent for doing this, but we don't really have enough projects to throw at her, or we just assume like it's very time consuming. Is that something that she wants to carve out part of her day to do? But then her point is like, no, I mean, I have this capability. I really like doing it, but we don't have enough to do that. Is there any way that we could either find more cases or do things more internally to do that? So it is one of those things where you're like, oh, okay, you may assume that they are not interested in doing that, or whether you know they have the talent or not. Sometimes you just got to ask and see if they want to put it to work.
And similarly, you can also ask, what would make your job even more satisfying?
So satisfaction, specifically when we're looking at, again, top talent, people who are willing to self-advocate or really go after new challenges, you're unlikely to get an answer of like, oh, I would like to have more break time. I would like to do less work. So specifically in these kind of stay interviews where you really want these key people to stay, asking them how they get satisfaction out of their job and what could help their job be more, say, personally satisfying. Do they have personal goals that they want to achieve to feel growth? How can their job be a part of that?
And I love that word, satisfying or satisfaction because that really allowed someone to think about how they feel, their emotion, and also what they're doing currently in their job. I like the next one. Do you feel you're getting clear goals and objectives? So I think this is a question that's more getting them to say something about my management skill.
It's definitely a question with a bit of reverse thought process in like, I want feedback for me, myself as the manager, without just being like, do you have any feedback for me?
Or like, do you think I'm a good manager?
This kind of direct question, people would be like, is that a trick question?
Of course you are.
The other thing is to understand whether this person feels like they're on track, whether it's for their personal goals or for the company goals, as opposed to, do they feel like, okay, I'm just picking up stuff wherever I need to. I don't feel very focused, or I don't feel my job description is very focused. Having that conversation. Because sometimes there are people who, and I've heard this, they really love the company, but they don't know where the company is going. Yeah. And that puts a bit of a worry in their head of, okay, I like the people, I like my job, but I don't really see that this is going anywhere particular. So do I have a long-term career here?
And I think perhaps for more smaller companies or startups, this could be a question that you do have to ask. 因为通常在一个新建立一个团队，可能有很多事情还没有非常的清楚. You know, there's always changes. So yeah, I mean, like, I think personally, we have asked these kind of questions quite a lot and often think about, do we set clear goals for others? Do we set clear goals for ourselves? But yeah, that's definitely something I would advise smaller companies or smaller team or startup team would do.
And especially the phrasing of this particular question is important. Do you feel you're getting clear goals and objectives? Not, do you know what our company's goals and objectives are? Or like, do you know what you need to accomplish? There's a big difference between me phrasing it in a way of like, yeah, I have goals and objectives. Now the question is, do you understand them or not?
Yeah.
Versus, are you receiving the message? Am I conveying the message in a way that you can understand? The phrasing of this question is very important because if you phrase it differently, it will maybe seem like an attack as opposed to a question of understanding.
Now, the last question, as your manager, what can I do more or less of?
This kind of question, similar to the last one, is really about making someone feel they have a comfortable feedback loop. Yeah. We've heard stories recently of entire companies losing like whole departments in a day just because they don't feel heard. They don't feel like they can have a discussion with the management. And that doesn't necessarily mean the management is wrong. But if there is no communication, you will not know whose side it is. And the result will just be a bunch of people leave.
Exactly. Yeah. And I like the way how this question phrased as is because it doesn't like focus on, am I a good manager or not? Because again, you're not going to get a real answer. 但是这个 question 是 what can I do more or less, right? 这个它可以比较对方可以用很多具体的例子 Again, they can be more specific to the answer. And that's just definitely more valuable to anyone in that conversation.
Well, we hope going forward in 2023, you find a time to take some of these questions and have deeper conversations with those key staff or key talents in your company so that as job market shifts, as people get anxious about what they're going to do with their career, you can really retain the people that can help grow and make your company better. Join us for part 4 next time, where we look at for job seekers. What do you do during 2023? We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
The Executive Plus podcast is a Presentality Group production, produced and hosted by Sherry Fang and Nick Howard. You can search us on Facebook, 主管英文 Executive Plus. You can also find us on Instagram, Communication R&D, and email us at sherry@epstyleplus.com.